Politicians like the Squad, Zoran Mamdani, they are perfect examples of how radical Islam even turns into communism. Now, many people used to say, oh, how would these things be connected at all? Well, Mamdani knows that he can't just win based on Sharia law. And so communism or something like that, that might appeal to more people in New York City. A number of voices on the right have been encouraging his opponents to consolidate. We saw that Eric Adams dropped out of the race. However, this is really not totally relevant unless the Republican drops out, unless people, let's say, coalesce behind Cuomo to defeat Mamdani. There's not really much time left in the race. And even if they do that, honestly, Mamdani might win anyway. So we're not really in a good spot, honestly, when it comes to New York City. And this is a city that is sort of an emblem of America. It's certainly very liberal, certainly has a ton of problems, but that doesn't mean we should just write off places like New York City and say, okay, cool, why don't you all become communist over there? Why don't you just elect people like that? Because no, these are American cities. These are places that people from all over the country go to visit. They're places that people might go for an internship or take a job up there, maybe go to school. And if we give up our American cities and say, okay, the right's just going to be in rural areas, we've given up part of our nation. We can't let that happen. I mean, we still have a country, an American culture that I think can be recaptured. We even saw in the death of Charlie Kirk how many celebrities, how many sports teams were talking about it. So we can't just write off the culture or liberal areas of the country, because I think we actually are making inroads there. We are changing minds, and more people are leaving the Democrat Party as the Democrat Party becomes more radical. So I think what we're going to see going forward is these places like New York are just going to be off the cliff. And then these other places that are liberal may actually start becoming more conservative. For example, Florida has recently become more conservative. Swing states, I think we may have a good shot in keeping longer term. But anyways, when we look at Mamdani, he is typical of one of these kind of high profile, wealthier guys who's not really one of the people, but he somehow thinks he's a communist because he gets to be on top. He's planning on appropriating housing in the area, turning it into communal housing, all of this. Now, I guess this sounds really great to everybody, but what would end up happening to that city if this happened? Well, the answer is that it will be extremely unsafe. It will be extremely hard to do business. I imagine a lot of normal people will have to leave the city, especially people with young families, middle-class people, because it's just not going to be safe. You just aren't going to be able to live and work there. I imagine the people who are lower income aren't going to be able to leave. It's actually not that hard to move. I know sometimes as conservatives will say, hey, person, why don't you just move away from your liberal place, move to this conservative place? Well, sometimes people can't just move. They have a family, they have a job, they have life in a certain place, and it's not that easy to just move across the country. So some people, unfortunately, are going to be victim to the horrific crimes and the horrible things we see under this Democrat leadership in these sanctuary type cities.